You have social anxiety, and it is weighing you down. It sits on your chest like a stone. It follows you into every room, lurks in every silence. You avoid eye contact. You overthink every word. You replay conversations at night like a broken record. Many struggle with this, but I found the only option you can choose to finally end this. This is how I did it. Friends. That's the word I always hated. When people talked about friends, I would act like I didn't hear it. Why is that? Don't ask me. I don't know either. My intuition just told me. I was always cautious with people. People are dangerous. They're happy with things that, to me, are pointless. They laughed about parties, joked about crushes, found joy in things I couldn't relate to. How could they feel like that? Are they dumb? Humans truly are dumb. Humans truly are shallow. I don't need shallow relationships like that. I am cool enough. My life is great. I alone am enough. I was wrong. That was all just a cope, a lie I told myself to justify my inability to socialize. Because the truth was, deep down, I was afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being judged, afraid that if I opened my heart, it would be trampled on. So I built walls, thick ones. I convinced myself those walls were strength, that isolation was freedom. But solitude and isolation are two different things. I wasn't free, I was trapped. Trapped in my pride, trapped in my fear, trapped in my silence, and I got good at pretending I didn't care, pretending I didn't need anyone, pretending that loneliness was peace. But late at night, when the noise faded and the lights dimmed, that's when I could feel it the most. The ache, the emptiness, the longing for something more. It didn't end there. I hated relationships. I didn't want them. Anything I could do myself, I would. Anything I couldn't do, I would force myself to learn. I buried myself in tasks, filled my time with distractions. I told myself I was content with my isolation. I told myself I was grateful. Yet, years passed, and something began to feel off, like a subtle shift in the wind. Not loud, not urgent, but steady, quiet, unignorable. There was this lingering emptiness, this quiet ache that no amount of distraction could fill. It wasn't about being bored, it was about being unseen. There was something missing, something essential. Not noise, not company, but presence. A human voice that wasn't from a podcast, a real conversation that didn't end with a screen turning black. Someone to ask me, how was your day? Not out of obligation, not out of care. Someone who would just sit beside me, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Someone whose silence felt safe, not suffocating. I used to scoff at people who needed friendship. I thought they were weak, too needy, too shallow. But in those quiet hours, when the walls I built started whispering back to me, I began to wonder, was I the shallow one all along? Was I the one too afraid to go deep without that? So I stayed safe in the shallow end, pretending I was swimming in something meaningful. Friendship. The word used to sting when I heard it. Now it echoed in my mind like a song I couldn't remember, but deeply missed. And then a memory, or maybe just a thought, surfaced. Brother, no one had ever called me that. Not like they meant it, not with love, not with belonging. It hit me like a sudden wave. Huh? Why am I thinking about this? Where is this coming from? Then it happened, without warning. Tears flowing quietly, sliding down my face before I even realized it. Reaching my lips, I tasted the salt. It startled me, not just because I was crying, but because I hadn't felt anything this raw in years. That's when I realized something profound. I hadn't just drifted a little, I had drifted far. Not because I walked with confidence, but because I walked with pride, because I walked without direction, because I walked alone. I hadn't taken the straight path, I had taken the long, winding detour through fear and denial. I had drifted from people, drifted from vulnerability, drifted from connection, drifted from the voice of God that once declared, "It is not good for man to be alone." And suddenly that scripture wasn't just a verse, it was a mirror, a direct line to the aching reality I was living in. Then came the moment, small but unforgettable. I was standing at the airport, people buzzing by, pulling suitcases, saying goodbyes, scrolling on their phones, And in the middle of that sea of faces, a man walked past me, slowed down and looked into my eyes. He didn't know me. He had no reason to care. But gently, sincerely, he asked, "What happened to you?" I froze. My heart tightened. My throat locked up. I wanted to say everything. I wanted to pour it out. But what came out of my mouth was the only thing I knew how to say. Nothing. It was a lie. A perfect, crystal clear lie. And in that moment, I saw it all for what it was. I wasn't a cool loner. I wasn't a noble, misunderstood soul. I wasn't above anyone. I was a man with social anxiety, a man who had been hiding behind sarcasm and intellect, a man who used detachment as a shield, a man who was terrified of being fully known, because deep down he feared he might not be loved. I was a wounded soul, afraid to let the light in because I had grown too used to the dark, afraid to be vulnerable because I didn't know how to heal, afraid to admit I needed help because I thought needing help made me weak. I lived alone, far from my parents. The only one I could talk to when facing problems was Jesus, Lord, my Lord. How do I turn this anxiety into something beautiful? No answer came, I pleaded. The thing I have now is nothing more than ash. It's been burned. It has no use. Still, silence. Please guide me. Please give me direction. Lord, my Lord, why won't you speak? The floor beneath my eyes was wet, my tears still dripping. He answered, no, he didn't. I really did have too much hope after all. I was tired, so tired, not just of people, but of myself, not of pretending, of forcing a smile when my heart was empty. I laughed at my own foolishness. In that moment, I felt abandoned by God, utterly alone, utterly exposed, utterly human. 2 years passed, like the flow of a small river, quick, indiscernible. I got a job, a corporate one, the lowest position in the company, an Excelman, tiring, bland, boring. Every week, my manager scolded me for being late. I hated the sound of his voice, but I hated the sound of my own excuses more. Now I understand. Postponing what I should have faced when I was younger brought pain in later years. So I began lowering my ego. I stopped blaming the world. I stopped playing the victim. I started reading, started exercising, started doing anything to become someone I wouldn't be ashamed of. I began praying with a different tone, not just begging for miracles, but asking for strength to change. I tried, then failed, then tried again, and finally I mustered the courage to speak to people. Hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. How about you? I'm great. That was it. Just that small moment, that small exchange, but it felt massive. That's when I realized how far I had come. Not in a straight line, but in a meaningful journey. Every tear, every silence, every prayer, it all led here. Don't be like me. Don't make excuses for what you know is holding you back. Take responsibility. Forget your ego. Talk to people. Spread love. And you'll see people aren't as bad as you imagined. And maybe, just maybe, God not answering my prayer wasn't rejection, but preparation. Maybe it wasn't the right time for me to receive it. Praise be to the Lord, truly, He is the greatest.